It is my extreme pleasure and honor to welcome our guest speaker, Nick Vujicic.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado. Appreciate it. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to be here in your midst. I've known Dr. Delgado for probably now several months as we've been dreaming together and in the office of Mike Antonovich of really what influence we can make in Los Angeles in the schools as we have a platform of speaking into the lives of youth to help them find the truth of their value, the truth of their purpose, and the truth that everyone has a greater purpose to live for. And, we really can't expect others to accept us until we accept ourselves. And I'm very, very thankful for many, many people in my life who've helped me to realize that life is awesome. Life has ups and downs. You see my foot, ups and downs, ups and downs. And I've got 2 toes for peace sign right here, right? But with the ups and downs of life, we all know that we wouldn't be who we are unless we've gone through what we've been through. And I, as once a student in Australia, has had really the privilege to go back to some of my teachers and some of my principals and thank them for what they do. And on behalf of all the students that are influenced by your decision and your management and the decisions made herein, we just hope that this is a refreshing, inspiring time for you to really understand that our decisions and how we live from day to day and operate even amongst staff and the different ups and downs that we have as adults in our own personal life, that we literally are making a difference. I did move here 7 years ago from Australia, and I have traveled around the world through our nonprofit organization, Life Without Limbs. We've given nearly $1 million away to the poor and needy. I get to share my testimony, my faith journey, motivational speeches all around the world. But also governments ask me to come and speak to their cabinets and their parliament and the House of Representatives and the Senate about knowing the importance of integration of people with special needs into society. And so I've been able to shake the hands of 13 presidents and speak in front of 8 national governments. And I've now been in 57 countries, 3 million miles, all around the world, 120 times. And so they say I run so fast I leave my legs behind. The biggest thing for me is, as a child, you really are influenced by the people around you more than you think. And it's not just the friends and it's not just the parents, but it's also the teachers. And I just want you to understand that what you're doing is absolutely invaluable. And when you do something routine and the mandate things from day to day, you sort of lose the sight of the importance of how you're living and how you have a perspective of each decision that you make. Whether it's a decision that's never needed you to even verbalize a thing. Maybe it's the decisions that you make personally amongst your work colleagues, or big key decisions that do affect millions of people around the world. I just want you to know that as a student, your world is so big. And I want you to remember that. I want you to remember right now when you were 8 years old. Do you remember when you were 8 years old? Right? Do you remember like the biggest, most stressful thing that you had was your homework or your siblings? And then you see the 13-year-olds and they're really stressed out. I remember when I was 13, I know a lot of 13-year-olds. I've spoken in front of 850 schools. And I've done anonymous surveys on countless times in different countries all around the world. And as you get to know everyone, no matter where they're at, there's always some challenge that they're going through. There's always some decision that they're pending on. I've never met anyone who's not stressed. How you doing? I'm stressed. How you doing? I'm busy. Well, what have you been doing? I don't know, but I just been busy, right? And we get so busy and we get so caught up in every decision that we have to make. And you're like, well, when am I going to get a break? Well, did anyone enjoy their summer, though? Did anyone enjoy their summer? Did you enjoy a little bit of sunshine? Yeah, good. But who wants the summer to go on just a little bit longer? Anyone here? Just a little bit like, I know, and so do I, but life is life. And when you look at life, you find the 13-year-olds who are, they put a do not disturb sign on their door and their parents come in and they're like, man, just leave me alone. And, oh, my friend, they invited me and then uninvited me, like all the teenage complexes of identity and trying to find out the bigger questions to life. I, as a child, as an 8-year-old, was really looking at my life on depths of levels, I would say more than an average 8-year-old because of my disability. I was born this way. Doctors don't know why I was born this way. My parents don't know why I was born this way. Lady Gaga don't know why I was born this way. And when you have a child without limbs and you have no warning, I mean, granted, my mum was actually a nurse. She was a midwife, so she had witnessed and seen and been the director of the birthing suites of a hospital for 5 years or so before I was born. My mum and dad were married 5 years before they had me, before they tried to have children, and they had ultrasounds done. When I was born, I smiled and said, surprise. And the doctors sadly told my parents that I would never walk, that I'd never do anything, that I'd be in my bed for the rest of my life. And they really are concerned about the quality of life. And they were apologetic to my parents for not giving them a heads up to give them an option to abort. Now seeing what this limbless kid became, the hands and feet of a light of love, the hands and feet of reaching out and going around the world and meeting presidents and being with the orphans and being with the disabled and being a voice for the people who have no voice. In developing countries, when a child is born with a disability, tribal beliefs still exist today to bury the child alive so that disability doesn't curse the rest of society. Literally happening today, okay? So that's why we go and do what we do. We speak to governments and we speak to education boards on a national level. And what I want you to know is, as a nation of America, you will never stop progressing. And that's a good thing. But to progress in which direction is very important to keep sight of. To understand that only in 1988, the education system of Australia only opened up the door for me to go into a special school. My mom and dad went to the National Board of Education and they presented their son as a case of integration. I was the first disabled student in Australia to be integrated into the mainstream school system. And now there is a full integration of even different levels of functionality of people with special needs throughout the country ever since. And I'm thankful for that. I am thankful. I am thankful for the voices of reason and knowledge and wisdom and experience that we all can bring to really take the society to a whole new level and continue to progress, yet with reason, with values and principles that really have been the foundation of this country and any country that is successful. It was obviously the best move for me. And I am very, very thankful that I went into a mainstream school. However, the bullying was a little difficult. I was no exception to that. I wanted to have arms and legs, and I wished and I wished, and I prayed for arms and legs, and I just maybe started having this even idea of my life at such a young age, maybe at age 6, definitely at age 8, that I don't know if my life is worth living. You know what kind of a thought that brings into anyone? You know, when we do any surveys across this country, what I get to do with the students is I ask them for their trust about 25 minutes into my speech, and I have their trust. And what I get them to do is to actually bow their heads, put their hand up in the air, and I do an anonymous survey. I'd never seen anyone do this before I started doing it. And the reason why I tried to come up with the creative idea to do that right there and then was to really know what is going on in this school. Now, again, 800 schools. I've done a survey in 200 schools worldwide. And the survey is a very quick one. They bow their head, they put their hand up in the air, and their hand is open. Okay? As I ask 4 questions, if their answer is a yes, they simply put their hand in a fist. The first question is, put your hand in a fist if you've actually thought of committing suicide. So again, that thought, maybe my life is not worth living. The second question is, how many have actually tried to commit suicide? The third one is, well, did you try to commit suicide because of abuse at home? And the fourth question is, have you tried to commit suicide because of bullying in this school? Granted, there are schools who don't want to talk about suicide at all, and they don't want me to go to their schools. However, this nation actually is going to come to a point, in my opinion, where it has to be discussed. Because just 10 days ago, there are now a set of parents suing the school because their son left enough evidence of his suicide being caused by bullying. There is no way to, quote unquote, dodge the question, dodge the topic, and some people think that it's better not to talk about it. I believe, and Dr. Delgado believes, and LA as a county, as a city, an influential city in this world, a leading city in this world. I tip my hat off to people like Dr. Delgado, Mike Antonovich, and the leadership in here, in this room, to understand more about our society. The chief of police in Florida told me that the real statistics of suicide in this country, of teen suicide, is 4,300 teenagers every single year. And then in the anonymous surveys that we have done, anywhere between 9 and 12% on average of students have actually tried to already commit suicide. 40% of which is because of abuse at home, and 40% of which is only, can I say only, because I am the guy that was one of them, as an adult now looking back, because of bullying, 40% of these attempts are happening. So 40% of 4,300 as a round number, every day we're talking about teenagers, dozens of them thinking about it every single day. I bring this up not to put a downer or come in on an angle of negativity, not at all. I share this because I was one of those statistics. I was a 10-year-old child, and I know we're talking mainly into middle schools and high schools, but I, as a child, with this challenge, had an advanced rate of maturity and thinking about the bigger questions in life because I was wondering, why me? Why not my enemy who's bullying me? He should have no arms or legs. Trying to deal with issues, people coming up and say, what happened? I didn't know what to say, so I just started saying cigarettes. All right? It's a really good anti-smoking campaign. I think it worked, okay? But the fact of the matter is the thinking and perception of one person's view of their value changes everything. It changes everything. The perspective of their self-image, the worry of what people think of them, the fears of the future. Fearing of the future will disable you more than having no arms and legs. And I know 48-year-old women who are disabled by the comments that were made by their father when she was 9 years old. It's not just the time of life that is most challenging, but it's the time of life between middle school and high school where you start making decisions as an individual, what your perception is on yourself, of others, and the meaning of life. And when you have those 3 barometers on your gauge, on your dashboard, That's where you start driving the car, according to that. So I don't know who you know who might be struggling with that as a teenager. Yes, we all struggle with it. But I want you to know that there are founding principles and catalyst people who made such decisions based on seeing the need for the progression of society and the need to better know our students. There is going to be a need as well in your departments to always be on the lookout for more creative ways in how to make a difference. We, for instance, had a wonderful technology, an app. Someone partnered with us. They're called Remedy Live. This is just an example for you to be encouraged, okay? When we did a simulcast of 276 schools at once over 3 days about bullying, we had this app where people could text in a certain phrase to a certain number, and there would be a trained, vetted professional, not an automated response, texting them straight away. It's amazing how many kids are in the same home as their parents, under the same roof, but they don't talk to each other. They text each other. Take out the laundry. Not yet. I'll do it later. You know, it's amazing. Just it used to be a step of first of all admitting that you have a problem, and then when you admit you have a problem, then what you do with the problem, do you tell someone? Now it's an added barrier. Well, now I don't really have to tell anyone because there's this now added mask that's there. Is society getting worse on bullying and different challenges? I believe so. Can we only blame it on cyberbullying? No, absolutely not. But there are ways in how you can use technology to intervene into someone's thinking in a positive way and possibly save their life. So in front of 276 schools, 350,000 students heard me speak about my story, about never giving up, knowing that you're beautiful, to never give up, the importance of doing your best and dreaming big, and just love everybody. During that speech, I twice referenced this text ability. 313131, and I think the phrase was stand strong. 35,600 students texted within 3 days. And they text someone, and someone's texting back. What's going on? How can I help you? 7 days from that last day on, in that period of 7 days, 10 suicides were intervened with police banging down the door, calling an ambulance, and saving their life. I got the gun in my hand. 911, boom, save a life. Grab the pistol. Someone already slit their wrist. Cops there. Get him to emergency room. No one was there. He would have died. We're talking 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. This is real. We are in the business, not just education. It is setting up people for the success of the years ahead. It is setting up people, principles, and values to leave a legacy behind. It's about students who become leaders in this country. It used to be 10 years ago that we used to think as adults, well, we need to invest into our youth because they're tomorrow's leaders. No, they're already influencing this world as a generation like we've never seen before. And we not only do have jobs here in this department on whatever sphere of influence you have, but we are literally in the business of saving lives. You are literally in the business of saving families. You are literally in the business of helping students graduate and break the shackles of generational preconceived failing ideas, low self-esteem, unacceptedness, thoughts of suicide, depression, and addiction. You are changing lives. When I was at school and I had my peers, I had my peers. And then when I went home, I had my parents. I thank God that I had parents who loved me, that no matter what war I had at school, I knew I could come home and have a home of refuge. And if I felt like crying, I could cry. My dad had 3 jobs and voluntarily doing an organization. He planted a church in volunteering time, had 3 jobs as well, and we had 3 kids, one of them being this special needs little kid that doctors had no idea what to do with. And he always made time for me. He always helped me to feel like I could tell him anything. He could even talk about an area of my life that I would first think I don't want to talk about it. But then he talked about it in a way that made me feel comfortable about, well, what do you see in school? Let's talk about some other students. He didn't want to put me on the spot. He wanted me to have a conversation with him that went beyond how was homework. How was school? Boring. What'd you learn? Nothing. Sorry, that's what happens, right? That's it. Even with your own kids, okay? Did you do your homework? No. Go do your homework. Okay. Right? That's because we're so busy. We got our priorities. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. But we forget to be friends to our own family. I think what's fallen is family. And half these kids don't have family. That's what I had. I had family. I had a loving home. I don't know if you did. These days, you're privileged if you do. I can name the names of the teachers that I had in my life, wherein, yes, I had my peers at school, and then I had my enemies at school. Enemies, do you like my quotation mark? Enemies. Then I had my parents and my family back in my home as my home refuge, but I knew every Monday morning I was going out on a war field. But when my teachers saw that I was a little down that day, they took 30 seconds to look me in the eye. Say, how are you? The greatest tool of freedom is love. And to give anyone a chance at their full potential of their life starts with love and caring. Bottom line. And you and your decisions and the people underneath you and above you. That's where it's got to start. Respecting, accepting, and being a team. Understanding you're in the business of changing people's lives. And in some cases, saving them. I can argue that the team effort, unbeknownst to my teachers, they were instrumental in planting seeds of hope. Because there were some times where I felt like my parents didn't understand. True with most. My parents don't understand. Then my peers, I tried to be someone I wasn't. To sort of fit in. But my teachers, they looked at me and they said, I believe in you. You okay? Are you doing okay? Yeah. Did we talk much more about? No. But it's the eye contact. When you talk about psychology and you talk about communication and you talk about the broad prospects of people's lives being acknowledged, feeling confident and affirmed in their value, it actually starts by acknowledging their presence. Eye contact. Smile. You like that one? Sometimes you're tired, and the last thing you want to do in that class, in that meeting, in that group of work colleagues is did you just hear that so-and-so? Oh my gosh, look at her hair. When is he going to put deodorant on? I don't understand. How does his wife put up with him? I don't understand. He's freaking me out. We're human. Everyone say we're human. We all annoy each other. Don't we? But we need each other as well. We need to get on that team. I want you to be excited about knowing the unknowns. There are some teachers I'll never be able to thank. Do you know who I haven't yet properly thanked that I want to do in the next couple years? The janitor at my high school. Why? I'm a speaker. I'm in the top 1 percentile of speakers in the world. True story. We have 35,000 invitations for me to speak. 1.4 billion people know exactly who I am, my story. And 600 million have been directly affected with a faith-based ministry called Life Without Limbs. And you know who inspired me to be a speaker? Not another speaker, not my mom, not my dad, my janitor. He looked at me one day, 61-year-old Arnold from India. And I had to wait for my cab every day for an hour before I went home. He looked at me one day, I looked at him. He saw I was alone, I saw he was alone. He came a little closer to me, I came a little closer to him. We started talking. 3 weeks into our friendship, we talked about everything. We talked about religion and war and everything, and even marriage, right? Relationships. Never had a girlfriend at that time. He became a friend. Love and affirmation. The field where you can plant seeds of hope, purpose, and aspiration. He looked at me one day and he said, Nick, you're going to be a speaker. And I said, you're a crazy old man. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're going to be a speaker. I said, and speak about what? He said, well, you're going to share your story. And I said, I don't have a story. He said, yes, you do. I said, I said, what are you talking about? He said, you're just going to get up and share from the heart. I'm like, no way, man. He said, do you know about the student support group that actually happens every Friday? And I'm like, yeah, I know about that group. He said, you should go there. I said, I said, no, thank you. He said, no, seriously, consider it. And I'm like, seriously? No. For the next couple weeks, every single day, he had got me so annoyed, I started hiding from him. He come and find me. And he was like, you're going to be a speaker. I said, man, stop this. To get him off my back, he twisted my arm. I said, yes, okay? I went there and I spoke for, 5 to 10 minutes in front of, 7 or 8 students. I had no idea what to say. My palms were sweaty. My knees were shaking. I got a lot more where that comes from. I got there and I spoke, and I didn't think I did a good job at all. And I looked up and I saw a teenage girl cry. She's like, I'm like, are you okay? She said, I said, what's wrong? She said, nothing. I said, why are you crying? She said, I was just touched. And I said, who touched you? I did not know that 10 minutes could really transform something in someone's mind in a way they'll never forget. So I started getting calls from this group and this group and this organization and this faith-based organization. I did a couple speeches between ages 17 and 19. And my mom sat me down one day. She was pretty angry. I was like, Mom was angry. She said, come over here. So her office is the kitchen where the wooden spoon is there. Just as a threat. No, she didn't spank me when I was a teenager, but you just know the wooden spoon is there, all right? Go into the kitchen. She says, Nick, I need to know something. I'm like, okay. She said, just tell me the truth, okay? Just tell me. I said, what? She said, I don't know. These people, they pick you up, they take you in their car, you go for a couple hours, you come back, and you're happy, and they're crying. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm speaking. She said, what do you mean you're speaking? What are you speaking about? I said, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I'm sharing my story. She said, you have a story? I said, yes. She said, what's your story? I said, I don't know. I just share. She's like, but why are they crying? Are you making them feel sorry for you? I said, no. She said, okay. What is this, like a job? Are they paying you? I said, no. Well, is it going to be a job? I don't know. When I told my parents that I was wanting to be a speaker, they did not understand. But there was one thing that helped me to grow wings and fly above the storm. Do you see this? Physical illustration. I want to reach that. Do you believe that I just woke up one day with 35,000 invitations for me to speak, including presidents to speak to all their schools at one time in 2016, coming up? Stadiums of 110,000 people. I didn't wake up with that. It was hard. Fear, obstacles, challenges. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know a speaker. My mom and dad's like, well, it's a hobby. I said, no, it's a job. She said, you don't get paid, so how can you call it a job? I was in university doing a double degree in accounting and financial planning. And on my 13th speech, I went in front of 300 sophomore students for 7 minutes. I didn't know what I was going to say. I got up there and I spoke, and within 3 minutes, half the room was crying. And one girl in the middle of the room just couldn't stop. She put up a hand. She said, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but can I come up there and give you a hug? And in front of everyone, she came and she hugged me on my shoulder and she whispered in my ear, thank you, thank you, thank you. No one's ever told me that they love me, and no one's ever told me that I'm beautiful. You're the first person. And I was in shock. If my parents never told me that I was beautiful, if my parents never took the time to communicate to me their love, I would have gone through with the attempted suicide at age 10. The only reason why I did not go through that suicide is because someone cared. Someone loved. Someone took the time to say, you're going to be okay. That is awesome. That is how it looks to see one student who feels like all hope is gone. And we all play a part in planting those seeds of love and hope. And that's when I knew that moment I was born to be a speaker, to change at least one person's life. And to have that perspective, you need to overcome not only your adversity, but even our thoughts of just waiting for something good to happen before I really do something good. Or for someone to do good to me before I do good for them. And then it gets tiresome when you don't see results. And then you don't ever see the student you intentionally took 30 seconds. You never know where they ended up. Or you get discouraged to know of a student where they did end up, despite your love. Your job is not a parent to these kids. Your job is not just to educate these kids. Your job is to do what you can to help them find their wings to fly above the storm. And if I did, and so can they. And if my teachers took the time, I want to make sure I took the time for someone else and realize that we're all waiting for a miracle, are we not? We're all waiting for a little pay rise. We're all waiting for the next season of life where it's not so stressful. You might be waiting a little bit longer. Okay, one more year. Okay, one more year. Oh, if my kids could just get out of college. One more year. But here's the beautiful thing about life, and no mistakes or accidents or chances or coincidences. That when you don't even get a miracle, you can still be a miracle for someone else. In Southern California, when I was 24 years old, speaking in front of a group, I saw a little boy with no arms and legs. And I brought him up on stage, and I hugged his mom, and I hugged his dad. 19-month-old Daniel Martinez in Orange County. And it was amazing. He had a little foot like me. And I couldn't give him a high five, so I gave him a low two. Seeing my mom hug his mom, seeing my dad hug his dad and cry was one of the most memorable moments of my life, where it felt like if I went through all that I've been through just to help one person, for real, what a journey that was. And to see from my parents' perspective all that they had to go through, to now encourage Daniel's parents. See, Daniel was born just like me. No medical explanation as well. The parents were afraid to have more children. When they met my parents, they planted seeds of confidence and courage and faith. Now Daniel has a little, fully able-bodied sister. When Daniel was 7 years old and he was getting bullied at school, I went to his school in my wheelchair and I ran them all over. No, I didn't. You shouldn't be clapping, all right? It's done. I went to his school and I spoke. And now he is a respected peer amongst the entire school. Just Daniel's different. It's not weird. You can still be friends with him. You can talk to him. It's beautiful. And if he ever wants to be a speaker, if he ever wants to be an entrepreneur, if he ever wants to be a preacher, if he ever wants to do anything, he knows that he has Uncle Nick. And if Uncle Nick can get through it, if Uncle Nick could be independent and start a company, then I can. And that's the value that we all have. Your story, your opportunities that you see with your own eyeballs. At that time, at that moment, be intentional, understanding it's in the business of saving lives. So thank you for saving lives. Thank you for being people of integrity. And when people are watching, when people are not watching, when people are hearing, when people are not hearing, we need to set the example. How do you expect my son to know what a good husband should be until I show him what it is. How do I expect my two boys? I have two sons now. Second one's 13 days old. Yeah, thank you. How do I expect my boys to care for the poor and needy if they don't see their dad doing the same? We set the example. And it's not as much as for what the students witness in your life as much as what you witness in your life, because you never can get away from you. And when you start clouding your mind, you can't think straight. And when you have a clouded vision, you can't see straight. When you can't see straight, you can't see the needy people all around you who may or may not need food, but not as much as they need love. So thank you. May God bless you. May you continue to dream. Be on the edge of being open to creative ways, not just technology, but engagement. You will be surprised how many children in your school actually want a positive change. They want it bad. They just don't know how. I've seen schools do multiple different things. They have bully police people. They have a team. But I tell you, I'll never forget. And I'll close with this. A school that I went in to speak at, I think it was somewhere out of the state of California. But in this country, went to a high school, and I was able to speak to, the student government leadership body. Went in there, and there was a teacher there. This group of students, about 25. They're coming up with all these kinds of ideas after seeing 1,400 students being moved, now figuring out that 100 students in their school have actually attempted suicide because of bullying in that school. 5%. Then they realize as a school, you know what? It ain't just cool anymore. We got to stop this. And I tell the students all the time, do you ever want to make a difference in this world? Yeah, there are 1 billion people going hungry. Yeah, I want to make a difference. 10 million slaves. I've met them. I've met 650 slaves who were teenagers, who were bought into slavery, sold by their parents for $700. I want to change the world. Nick Vujicic, until his last breath, will do all that he can to try and make a difference of this world. And I believe it is our youth, where 400 million people will one day, on technology, give $1 a day to actually end world hunger. Can you imagine $400 million a day, where we as a people, we don't wait for a government, we don't wait for a billionaire, we don't wait for a system to end world hunger. It's 400 million people giving a little bit a day to actually stop world hunger. I believe that's a solution. But you ain't going to help anyone believe they can change the world till they change their school. And I'll tell you, this generation is the key for the future of this world, period. And if we don't tell them and we don't bring in the values and self-esteem of principles and values, then who will? Because half of them don't have good parents. Who will? Their friends? No. TV? No. Us. Us. You. And these students said, wow, I never knew that my gossip was part of a reason why someone hates their life so bad that they want out. They want to check out. It's a light bulb. I don't ever want to be part of someone's reason to ever give up. Do you? Neither do they. But they just didn't know. So, in conclusion, these leadership members, oh, we can do this and we can do that, we can do that. And I said, look, you can come up with any ideas you want, but just do something. Do something. The teacher got up there. She was upset. And I'm like, whoa. I saw steam coming out of her ears. I'm like, what is about to happen? I don't know. She got up there like a sergeant. She got up. She did this. She said, don't talk about any more ideas until you, as a leadership of this student body, actually stops gossiping about each other. And sits back down. And the air of the room just whoosh. I'm like, "Ugh." Until we are the leaders, you can't lead. So, you, in your community, in your sphere of influence, in your family, just try your best. With that trickles on to other leadership, and other families, and other communities. Because the world needs hope. And right now, you have this opportune moment to set the bar. Principles, values, being aware of the world changing around us, being creative, with all integrity, making a difference, and saving lives as best as we can, one day at a time. Thank you. Thank you.